Picture this. It's, let's say Tuesday. You're driving home, music's on, you're feeling good about life, and then, clunk, steam starts pouring out from under the hood. The mechanic hits you with the bad news. It's going to be about $1,200 to fix. Be honest with yourself for a second. Does your stomach drop? Do you immediately start sweating, wondering which credit card has enough room left? Or is it just a minor inconvenience? Like, annoying, sure, but not a financial disaster. That feeling, that difference between panic and, well, peace, that is exactly what we're talking about today. Welcome back to Subject Simplified. Today we are mapping out the absolute backbone of your financial health, the Emergency Fund Flowchart. We can't talk about this in a vacuum, right? If you've been following along, you know the foundations are crucial. We figured out our financial why, we got our 4 key financial documents ready, we picked a method with the budgeting blueprint, and we started tracking our expenses. So you're tracking, you're budgeting, you should have a little bit of leftover cash. The big question is, where does it go? When do you save versus pay off debt? Let's simplify it. First, the why. This is less about math and more about psychology. There's this famous finding from the Federal Reserve Survey of Household Economics and Decision-Making, SHED. In their latest report from May 2025, they found that a significant portion of adults would still struggle to cover an unexpected $400 expense with cash or equivalent readily available funds. They'd have to borrow, sell something, or just not pay it. And this lack of a buffer creates financial fragility. Listen to this. This is a mind-blower. Vanguard conducted a study and found that having even just $2,000 in emergency savings is associated with a 21% higher level of financial well-being. That's the psychological boost, the peace of mind. Interesting fact, researchers in behavioral finance like Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky found that the psychological pain of a financial loss is roughly twice as powerful as the pleasure of an equivalent gain. This is known as loss aversion. An emergency fund acts as a psychological firewall against that pain. So, look, an emergency fund isn't an investment. It is insurance. You don't expect a high return on your car insurance. You pay it so you don't go bankrupt if you crash. Same logic here. It's your defense against high-interest debt. All right, let's pull up the flowchart. This is the official order of operations once your budget is humming. Phase 1, the starter fund. If you are currently carrying high-interest debt, credit cards, payday loans, you might think, I shouldn't save a penny until that's gone. Actually, you need a quick shield first. You need a starter emergency fund, $1,000 to $2,000 or 1 month of expenses. This isn't your full safety net. This is your debt defense. If the car breaks down now, you don't throw the repair on a 25% APR credit card, which defeats the purpose of your debt payoff plan. You use the shield. Phase 2, the debt destroyer. Once that $1,000 to $2,000 is secured, then you attack that high-interest debt. This is where you go aggressive with the surplus cash identified in your budgeting blueprint. Why this order? Mathematically, if you have debt costing you 22% and you're saving in an account earning 5%, you are losing 17% on that money. You clear the bad debt first. Phase 3, the full emergency fund. Debt is gone, or mostly gone, and you're down to low-interest mortgages or student loans. Now we build the fortress, 3 to 6 months of essential expenses. Essential means survival. Rent, food, insurance, minimum debt payments. It doesn't include the fund money we categorized when we were tracking expenses in the previous video. Aim for 3 months if you have high job security, work in a stable industry, and have no major dependents. Aim for 6 months or 9 to 12 if you are self-employed, work on commission, have a large family, or have an older home that needs frequent repairs. You need a bigger buffer for volatility. This is the second crucial component. Where do you put it? This money cannot go into the stock market. You need it stable and accessible. This is where we talk about savings vehicles. You need liquidity and a defense against inflation. Inflation is the silent killer. If you leave $10,000 in a standard checking account earning 0.01%, its purchasing power is shrinking by 3 to 5% or more every year. The answer is a high-yield savings account or a money market account, or MMA. These accounts are FDIC insured, they offer competitive, market-driven interest rates, and they are incredibly liquid. Here's the calculation for the long term. Let's say we have an inflation rate of 4%. If your savings account interest rate is 0.01%, your real rate of return, the amount by which your purchasing power is actually changing, is roughly R minus I equals minus 3.99%. By placing your money in a high-yield savings account earning, say, 4.5%, you're almost breaking even with the inflation rate, preserving your money's value. If you had kept it in a checking account, you'd be effectively paying the bank for the privilege of keeping your money there. Interesting fact, a 2021 study on savings behavior found that savings account ownership was the strongest predictor of actually having an emergency fund, regardless of financial knowledge. Simply having the dedicated, separated account makes the goal psychologically real. So, the Emergency Fund Flowchart is not just a diagram, it's a strategic plan. Starter fund, debt attack, full fund in a high-yield account. It's about protecting the gains we've made by establishing our financial why, creating the budgeting blueprint, and tracking our expenses. Next step for you, if you don't already have one, your assignment is simple. Open a high-yield savings account today. Separate that money so you remove the psychological temptation of spending it. If you found this flowchart helpful, please hit that like button. It really helps us out. And make sure you're subscribed to Subject Simplified so you don't miss the next video where we explore inflation in more detail. I'll see you in the next one.